When I look into doing a challenge run, I aim to find a weapon that is either secretly overpowered or absolutely terrible, and base my run around that weapon, and bonus points if that weapon is very forgotten about. As for this run, I managed to find a weapon that fits everything to a T, so join me in this whaling expedition across the Commonwealth, as today I will attempt to beat Fallout 4 with the Harpoon Gun. So, some Harpoon facts. It is basically the love child between the broadsider and a railgun, but mostly railgun. It has an absurd damage rating, but is balanced out by being one of the slowest reloads in the game. It has some other perks that we'll get to later. As for the rules, going to be a standard run so I can only use the Harpoon Gun and that is it. Also no companions in the sort. So, how much of this whale tale is true and how much is fibbed? Let's find out. Starting up at the exit of the vault, going with the slight nightmare fuel as usual. A little bit of boiling water here, a little bit of going face first into a fish processor there, and I can come out beautiful in the eyes of a blindfolded lord. As for special stats, I will be honest, going into the run, I put in 0 research into the weapon, so I went with a standard build of 5 strength, some criteria for idiot savant, and other points here and there, but I really should have put more perks into agility. Outside in the real world, or so I believe is the real world, I go to work scrapping my hometown to the bone, leading every rad roach to my robot butler to be turned into next week's casserole. It will taste like shit regardless, so let's just speed up the process so I can consume it faster. The flies inside one of the houses refuse to come out to my lunchtime at first. Such meals are to be savored as a fine cuisine that will probably kill their children. I take the special book and make my bones less wet tissue paper, and I began putting out shelving. Who needs to make postland when shelves are the way of the future? I don't have to make abstract art when I can make a distortion in the space-time continuum. I also did take the time to make some post art, and there is a reason they rejected me from art school, and I am still sad my creativity never came back, only for the void to be filled with intrusive thoughts. Now that I am level 5, I am feeling confident I won't be one-shot, only two-shot by the monstrosities of the world. I began my grand adventure to the island they banned me from 200 years ago, but since everyone there is now dead, I am safe to come back. On my way there, I ignored the whimpering dog. Deep down, that dog will be the sole exception for all dogs going to heaven, and I wandered into Concord ready to throw down with the raiders. But of course, I did not have my ticket to enter the museum, so as soon as I entered the door, I was immediately turned away, and I began hiking to the east, selling whatever I could find for some stim packs so I don't die on my way there. Despite me being in a very dangerous portion of the map, the journey to the northeast was mostly uneventful, just very stressful. I could feel my heart rate increasing with each step, and I am one small heart attack away from a moderate heart attack, and I remembered something slightly important when I got to the friendly Christian community that enjoys burning people at the stake for being slightly different. I returned to the robotics junkyard and turned the local sentry bot into a sent to the moon bot for some easy fusion cores, along with a free fat man. Back on the dusty trail, I continue my paranoid trip east, making sure to avoid obvious dangerous spots like the hospital they send the brutally maimed football stars to, along with marking some locations on the map for later, and the only thing I know before I got to the Nankado's residence was that I was jumped by a rad scorpion. To be honest, I think I soiled my pants and ruined my office chair, so this would be a great spot for a sponsored segment to peddle a gaming chair. Hello? Anyone? I promise this chair won't smell like Taco Bell and ball sweat. Eventually I arrive at a forgotten corner of the map, perfect to stick a DLC at, and I promise Kenji I will return his daughter home. Probably not, but at least I can take a boat along for a ride. And I accidentally took the cat along for the ride. And when the transition to the island happened, the cat was missing. But at least the fishies were happy. Why are you looking at me like that? I turned around and took the cat home, and I just dumped some fish bait into the ocean. Do you take me as a total psychopath? As soon as I arrived, instead of buying my weapons of the day from the vendors, I had to sit around and watch as the town is ransacked by gulpers. I wish I could do something, but sadly I cannot. The most I can do is watch Alan blow himself up with his own Molotovs, and eventually I got bored and tried leading the gulpers around the back way into Acadia like the good Samaritan I am. Frankly, Far Harbor's defenses are kinda but instead of dooming the town, the gulpers proceed to warm me right up. This is what happens when your avatar looks like prey that is easily digestible. Eventually the town can be saved, and the citizens can thank me for doing absolutely nothing, and I can buy my weapon of the day, the Harpoon Gun, along with quite a lot of ammo for it. It is honestly nice that I can do a run with abstract ammo without having to resort to duping things doggy style. And with my weaponry secured, I can take my plunders to the museum to let the Minutemen be safe for a minute, along with forcing my way past the reception desk. At this point, I am one-shotting the raiders, which makes sense since these raiders aren't built to deal with a weapon that deals over 10 times the amount most weapons should be doing at this point in the game. Or they're not physically prepared to feel a giant rod penetrating their body, and if I actually had gore enabled, I could have said body parts fly off their bodies and be nailed on the nearby scenery. The raiders inside the museum's anatomy were so disfigured, archaeologists from the distant future are still trying to figure out who goes to who and where exactly, and I can converse with the gravy about bailing their arses out of their history class. Meanwhile, I'm just here to grab their perception bobblehead. Back outside, I get the massive honor of purging every raider of this mortal coil, and I am already sick of this reload speed. If I whiff a shot, then I get to show the world how much of a disgrace I am as I slowly reload. Probably the best way to mitigate my terrible accuracy issue, that is mostly a skill issue, is to use VATS and pray the dice roll is in my favor. Eventually Yoshi is free from his eternal hell and wishes to play with the locals. Hey Carla, think you can help me with the Deathclaw? Never mind. By playing like a coward hiding inside a building like the neckbeard I am, since the prospect of a razor sends shivers down my spine, the Alduin cosplayer can go down, and I can lead the refugees from one hellhole to another, since like hell, I am going to be going down the Minutemen ending again. Except of course, Preston really does not like the idea of going it alone, so he never moves to Sanctuary until later on in the run. Back on the dusty trail, I figure I could slowly make my way down to Diamond City, and of course, I do take the time to make sure Wolfgang gets the better end of the bargain bin rod in the side of his brain. I just continue my normal route through the early game by paying a visit to the Buzzkill Toaster and helping him with his brain-dead fan club. At least I can be of help with the troubles, instead of hiding behind a fence like the f***ing coward I am.
If you want to...
I would say you are under heavy fire. Dan seems like a total hard ass, and I doubt he'd be into tasteless jokes. He didn't even laugh at this joke. What is black and white and red all over? The subscribe button. Okay, my writer's block is getting out of hand, but any subscriptions will help out a lot. I want to push towards 5,000 subs, and any little bit helps. Before being the responsible adult and leading the oversized man-child to a Dutch oven, I do the smart thing and return to Sanctuary to make sure I have as much carrying capacity as I can. We all know it lies in Arcjet, and I'll give you a hint. The Institute is going to have a serious manpower and weapon shortage in the near future, and Preston finally figured out the simple directions of follow a straight line. He could never survive the grid structure of Iowa. I am not a normal person, or even a normal Pepito. I am mentally deranged for one, and for two, if there is any exploit I can do to ensure I can cheese the game, I will do that. I have quick save mapped to the V key and quick load to the B key, and I will f***ing save scum any quest completion if it means getting a level up or 3. I pushed the favors of the post gods a little too far, so I will push my patience a bit. Now comes the field trip to Arcjet. At one point the school bus made a wrong turn, and the kids can get a first-hand experience at what a mugging looks like. Who the f*** wants to see what a plaster copy of some bones look like? They want to see live anatomy of intestines spilling out of the raiders. If there is any one major advantage the harpoons have compared to normal ammunition, there is a decent chance I can recover a harpoon from the corpse. The less troops I have to return to the very racist Alan, the better. As for Arcjet, I followed the intended trail of this very linear dungeon until I came across the synths, which remains a one-shot. However, I honestly have no idea what I was doing, remaining in the point-blank distance of one of the synths, and I was gunned down. I will chalk it up to having severe brain fog when recording, and this is a fine showcase of the drawback of the weapon. If I miss a shot, the punishment is severe. Inside the third multiverse of being a failure, the synths start to go down much easier, mostly by hanging out behind a big metal can, and we arrive in the reactor room. There is a secret mechanic the Harpoon Gun has that could turn it into a game breaker. You can use harpoons as a makeshift staircase. I try to be cheeky and make a ladder to the top of the engine room to see if it is possible to bypass the engine, but God Howard spat on this transgression and created a beam to spite me. Meh, fine. I will be a good Christian boy, and I will do nothing and watch a giant family reunion with all the synths as I drool at the prospect of a shitload of guns and fusion cells to sell. After getting bored at this picture show, I set the oven to 500 degrees and run to the grocery store for an hour. I don't think the apartment complex appreciated that, but my bank account more than appreciates the heavy investment. Inside the final room, I make a critical discovery that will forever change the direction of the run. I got a sneak shot off on the synth, and the synths had no idea where the bullet came from, which is a trait sniper rifles with a muzzle get. I took this as a sign from the Lord and Savior Todd Howard. I have a ranged weapon that fires long sticks at enemies. These sticks can be recoverable, and the weapon works best while hidden. I saw the message, and I shall heed the sign and spread the good word, or whatever the carbon monoxide told me to do. I shall become a stealth archer. Mission complete. I got the transmitter and a couple level ups for my troubles because the multiverse is a fickle mistress. Now I have a lot of unnecessary loot. I think it is high time I pawn it off, though I think the ghouls don't have enough money to pay for my addiction to caps. I think half of the stuff in the pawn shops is stuff they stole to get super high. Honestly sounds like half of the rural towns in the Midwest. With a fresh supply of caps and an upgrade on my attire, barring my signature sea captain's hat, I hiked my way to Diamond City with a fresh serving of king crab legs. Gods, I miss being able to afford crab legs, and now all I can eat is imitated crab legs. When I finally remembered, I returned to Sanctuary to give my gun some better sights, so now I know what I'm generally aiming at, and I get to try it out on the raiders on the boat, and it is somewhat effective. Still can't aim worth a shit, and I cannot hold my breath for steady aim. So I expulged the semen from the end of the shaft of my gun. Hey, who snuck this into the script? If there is one nice thing about my powerful gun, oftentimes, one harpoon is enough to one-shot a legendary enemy, so I don't have to worry about the surprise phase to Ascended Angel form. Keep those to the RPGs, thank you very much. I persuaded Piper to let me into the city, and he used the extra polite persuasion to be let into the serial thriller's house for much later on. With all my loot procured, I pawned it off at the first vendor who looked at me funny, and no, I'm not talking about my schizophrenia. Keep it down, voices in my head. It is not considered polite to clean a town out of its living resident problem. We talked about this numerous times already. Fine. If it will make you happy, I will shit in a few mailboxes, alright? With a decent amount of cats to my name, I returned to the island and purchased the unique harpoon gun from Alan, the Admiral's friend. Why would I want to be a friend of the Admiral? I am a sea captain. He is beneath me. But the Admiral friend is a very funny weapon since it deals double damage if the target is at full health. For automatic weapons, the effect is pretty much pointless, but for single-shot weapons, especially a weapon with a very high base damage that works well from stealth with a snake multiplier. This weapon suddenly went from a powerful weapon to the jokes to end all jokes. So did you hear about the one about a baby in a fridge? Okay, enough getting distracted with war crimes, though it is such a fun novel thing to get distracted by. I should probably get the main story back on track, even if it means playing fetch with the ugliest mutts known to man. I also took the time to use my employee login to access the forbidden side of the library where they keep the books banned from the banned book sections. Can't have the kids questioning Big Brother now. I mostly just wanted the intelligence bobblehead to hopefully get my intellect back to my old college days, not clouded in despair. And I guess playing defense with the super mutants wouldn't hurt. For me, getting a barbed bludge through the cranium probably hurts like hell. Just like Skyrim, I like playing Fallout 4 with stealth builds, so I feel right at home. Back out at sea, I decided to have a little bit of fun hunting the local fauna, and I think some swan could go well for tonight's meal. Yeah, I nearly one-shotted swan, and if I used a crit or any buffs, I probably could have one-shotted them. That is the power of a stealth build, I guess. As for the subway station, I embody the powers of stealth and playing like a coward and picking off a few triggered men without too much fuss. And when they get close, I could use VATS to compensate for my skill issues. More of the same when I got into the rail line, using the stairs as an effective funnel. Yeah, I am really feeling this obnoxiously long reload. For one-on-one encounters, I could deal with it, but group encounters, I will need to play things extra cautiously. Eventually the hardest part of the vault could be cleared out, and one triggerman was wanting to practice for the Jesus role for the community theater. He sure has the pose right, so let me add the nails into his coffin. 9 inches long, which is way longer than what I have. So, harpoons will have to suffice. As for the vault, the encounters are much more spaced out and far fewer in number, so I feel right at home. The bathroom is leaking once again, but at least it isn't blood for once. The basement has a cave-in, and the rats are getting in again. And the internet is shit. I did not miss my college dorms. As for Dino, I hope Nick isn't traumatized that some ancient fossil is nailed right to his window. With the Dick rescued, now comes the escape out of the vault which means yet even more triggermen meeting their end by this trigger-happy lunatic. Yeah, I don't think they appreciated being waken up from their wet dream for their mattresses being soaked in their own blood. As for the skinny martini, helpful word of advice, if someone is holding a giant machine pointed right at your head, maybe don't gloat. Yeah, the fight was very easy thanks to using the entrance as cover, and I can get even more delicious exploited level ups, and my build is starting to get rounded out. But at this point, I really need to rush getting rapid reload, so that means one very long trip to the most remote location in the Commonwealth. At least the journey wasn't too interesting, mostly fishing in shallow waters with a spear 10 times the size of my prey. There goes my minnow. Down here in the danger zone, I played things cautiously, don't want to be turned into a nuclear piñata, and during my travels, I find a voice in a fridge, which I let them out. Thank God I didn't miss, or this would have ended up being way worse. With my tasteless jokes several paragraphs ago tagging along, we set off down the road and meet Bullet. He just wants to let Billy live out his fantasy of playing Minecraft for the rest of his life. Here you go, Billy. Have fun. Man, I am such a wonderful person. But what is this sense that something is wrong? Like I did something that is very immoral. Oh, yeah, I should have asked for more money. Eventually, after straddling around a town that I really do not want to try to venture into, I will take the super mutants with aggressive hugging capabilities. I arrive at the Skyrim boat, which is not a very friendly place to be. Not so much from the Norwegian hospitality, but the sentient crab cakes hanging out in the basement. The upper deck was at least not nearly as threatening, just playing the world's most dangerous game of peekaboo. Peekaboo, have a harpoon in the face, motherfucker. At the end of the boat, Rags will need a shitload to clean up that bloodstain, and I can procure the agility bobblehead, letting me finally get rapid reload. Okay, quick hands, but I guess it is rapid reload in my eyes. And now, I can finally reload at a reasonable rate. With that giant distraction done for the sake of the build, next up comes more basic story missions to pass the time, getting the first of 20 interviews to a job that does not exist, and breaking into some guy's secret side room to steal everything stashed away for a rainy day. Then offer a dog I just found a danger stick. But the real goal isn't to find Kellogg, it is to save scum this end of quest flag for a ton of experience. It's almost as if I'm predictable or something. Now comes the hike to Fort Hagen, and not by following the dog to points of interest, just creating new points of interest, such as a new art exhibit outside of Arcjet. The city ran out of a budget for anything art related, gotta line a mayor's pockets after all, so they just improvised by adding 2 bodies of some jerk named Art to the park and called it good. I also one-shot a bear, getting revenge for all the salmon during spawning season, and settling a small rivalry between scavengers and raiders before making it inside the fort. Ideally, I would have loved to play this level like a stealth mission, but dogs aren't known for being quiet with their incessant barking and leading robots right to my location. My offense is slightly better than my last run-in with the synths, that being a faster reload, and my defenses are actually up to snuff, so the excursion wasn't too bad. As for the subterranean levels, I can play things a lot more stealthily down here, so things weren't that difficult. The range is a helpful boon too, not like a nail gun where I have to get up into everyone's faces and spray. Throughout the entire fort, I was trying to build up to a crit for a certain someone, but it didn't even matter to begin with. I am starting to suspect this weapon might be a little too powerful. With the brain matter that is somehow still in one piece, which is a miracle, I can step outside into the nice radioactive smog-induced air of New York City to watch a potential unfortunate accident fly in. They must have made the balloon pop-proof, since it is so tempting to pop it. Back in Sanctuary, I figured I could diversify my harpoon guns a little bit. Well, sure, I could level up my gun nut to level 3. Or I could just pretend I have gun nut leveled up, and the game just lets me craft a sniper rifle, letting me be the sniper I always wanted to be. And during this intermission, I did return to Far Harbor to restock my harpoons and see if there were any potential armor upgrades to help me with my sneaking capabilities, given this is a glorified stealth build. And I even made a trip up the foggy coastline to Acadia to pay Demon Nuts a visit and seeing if he has anything for sale. Sadly, he doesn't, which really sucks. Instead, he proposes that I play Minecraft instead. Yeah, no. Back in Diamond City, I do the usual story beats like ignoring the press like my home country that isn't faux news, or letting Flint's head go flying, and making it to the memory den just so I can take a trip down memory lane. I sure love reminiscing about my college days, like let's playing during the time LPing was extremely oversaturated, or getting hopelessly addicted to Overwatch, or becoming extremely depressed and overwhelmed with my classes in a degree I would end up resenting, and nearly becoming a weight test for a tree branch. Fun times! With the relevant information secured, I returned to Diamond City to begin my trek down the glowing sea. The journey there wasn't too strenuous. Remember that before a massive whaling expedition, be sure to limber yourself up on any civilians cosplaying as raiders, and making sure your barbs are not going to leave your prey. I also make some green paint for the Diamond City quest, but spoiler alert, I never handed it in. My memory works only 10% of the time, and the remaining 90% of the time, I am just happy-go-lucky, making any unfortunate victims are forgotten to the echelons of history. I was going to tackle the football player head-on in the base between Diamond City and the glowing sea, but seems Duke beat me to the punch. I also tried to snap from afar, but I forgot I could hold Alt to hold my breath. I thought it was a perk that unlocked focusing. My therapist told me to take deep breaths when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't think I should do that in the middle of an ethanol plant. There wasn't much else of note on my way down to the Sea of Misery, mostly helping out the Brotherhood take out some raiders along with the super mutant camp. As for the radioactive ocean, after a certain company thought it would be cool to dump a shitload of radioactive waste in, the wildlife wasn't too strenuous. The giant scorpion fish were a little disgusting with their burrowing, but a barb in the face solves the problem pretty nicely. Well, a barb in the face solves any problem. I think the most dangerous encounter on my way to Virgil's cave was a swarm of flying fish near Sentinel site. They were fast, and they swarm on you. But the worst part is that the game plays by Fire Emblem bull rolls. Yeah, sure, I would love for that 84% to miss, and also the 15% chance to hit my lord to actually hit, and the 1% crit to actually crit. Typical luck bullshit. And at the end of a stupidly long map too. The rest of the muck wasn't too bad. Well, besides the Deathclaw ambushing me from the dead coral reef. To be honest, I wasn't even paying attention, and I arrived at my destination a little sooner than I was anticipating, and I need to get my head out of my brain fog. At least fats on the belly works wonders. I talked to the ogre fish that is considered more beautiful than Miss Nebraska, and next up comes Greenetech. This is called Greenetech because if I had Gore mode on, it would be called Redtech. This is probably the most difficult encounter in the late game of the run. Lots of enemies come piling onto my location when I'm at my most vulnerable. While the gunners might not be the most prepared for a giant rod to fly at them, slamming their heads against the wall, they make up for it in numbers. So to make sure I don't end up becoming yet another environmental storytelling piece on the side of the wall, I would have to play this slow and carefully. Frankly, I am surprised they survived the missile to the knees. Fats and actually respecting endurance does wonders. If there's any one thing that makes Greenetech bearable, after the missile launcher section, the dungeon gets so much easier. As for the courser, with the loose ends taken care of, I can grab the brain matter chip that somehow didn't shatter from the shot to the head, and of course I can partake in long-range target practice. Not nearly as good of a weapon as an actual sniper rifle here, but it is still cathartic. Next up comes paying the railroad a visit, and okay guys, this is supposed to be a family-friendly show with very not family-friendly commentary. Get a room! The railroad really needs a much better password than their username, and this hacker is now in to wreak havoc. With the railroad's railway rifles, powered up by the pay-to-win model, I could decode the Christmas decoration to find Morrowind trapped in the middle, and I returned to Virgil to get the crayons on the back of the Diner's Kitty playbook, and now comes picking a side to get into the Institute. The Minutemen are currently figuring out how to open a can opener, and the railroad are strung upside down on the docks to let the blood be let out. So Brotherhood it is. I wanted to do the Brotherhood route as it is, so I get my ride up to the blimp that I somehow didn't pop, and do the usual meet and greet of important members of the faction I don't give a about, and before getting well acquainted with behemoths and super mutant missile launchers, I wanted to get an upgrade on my attire, selling everything I have legally and morally obtained, barring the numerous blood marks on it. I did make a pit stop back on the island to refill my harpoons, since I tend to lose a lot of bullets to a skill issue, and I find Brooks selling the single most important headpiece in the game. And now, with my proper head cap in place, I feel so much more at peace. Like I go from missing something to feeling whole. And now, I can start to rip and tear until the super mutants are done. I took this new surge of determination to the strongest fort along the east coast, waiting until nighttime to begin my assault and attempting to snipe from afar. I could have used the bridge for effective cover if I had some mental cognition, but I guess I'm not very smart. The bridge goons weren't too strenuous, just bait everyone back as the mutants can relive their childhood memories of lobotomizing themselves with crayons, just with a heavy dosage of lead. The butcher was a little rough, but just take this as a sign of how to take encounters safely. Now comes penetrating the fortress, and of course, I fall through the pothole again. I am just very unfocused today, I guess. As for the behemoth, gods, this weapon is f***ing powerful with the right build. The inside of the fort is much easier than the exterior, surprising the brutes and using cover to my advantage. And slowly, I am getting more used to playing shooters after spending a year playing Elder Scrolls games in the cheesiest way possible. Basement, more of the same, just baiting the enemies to my location, and flexing my old MLG days. With the fort secured, Maxim is pleased at how ruthless I can be, and thinks an undercover mission is right up my alley. Yeah, sure, be nice. Yeah, I will follow that in my maybe later pile. I build the teleporter, and insert the network scanner to get to work on the Institute's intel. Like any good father-son relationships, I teach my son how to best hunt sea life. You hang out from the shadows, and aim for the head. Turns out I had the wrong son, and now social services is after me. Oopsies. Maxim chews me out for the art of subtleties, and thankfully, there is a backup plan to get communism back on the menu. No idea why we didn't go through that in the first place, but oh well. I traveled to Diamond City to find out the scientists fled the country to find better grant money in a bowling alley in another country. Fine. I wanted to spend my free time shoving my rods into some robot maids anyways. I really didn't feel like diplomacy with the robots, so I overthrew another dictator. I don't feel bad. You can't be a dictator without being a dick anyways. After giving every robot an internal meltdown, I strike down the guards defending a scarred doctor and take her back to the giant robot to start reconstruction. The next stage of operation is getting some nukes for Prime, and instead of the little boys, he wants the fat men. Thank goodness we won't have an administrative problem going on. To clear out a sentinel site wasn't that difficult, thankfully. The part I was most worried about was the horde of ghouls that swarm you in the tunnels, given my weapon's stupidly slow fire rate. If there's any one way to combat melee-focused combatants, it is to back up slowly. And I managed to score a 2-for-1 special. Maybe now they can put their heads together to solve this problem. The rest of the dungeon wasn't too bad. The only dangerous part was dealing with the tear in the fabric of space-time, and my VATS not working as intended. To be honest, I don't think they even tested VATS on this weapon to begin with. The payload is uncovered, I get the jump on a jump scare, and we are inching ever closer to the end of the run. Seems while I was away, Dance proposed to a fellow sex bot and eloped, and now we need to bring him down. Sure, Halen, I will ear dance out. Oh, you meant hear dance out. Well, I don't think he'll be doing much hearing going forward. I am rewarded for a job well done by being invited to a luxury hunting trip on the company card. This all-paid trip involves hunting exotic wildlife like the railroad and dining exquisitely on their corpses. Man, it pays handsomely to be a higher-up. Once the trip was complete, now comes a VIP trip via flying taxi to the penthouse suite of the tallest building in the Commonwealth. The security detail wasn't too keen of using a defective helicopter and started firing at us. I can't use the minigun, so I have to wait patiently for the go-ahead to jump. Thankfully not to my death. Once the situation has been taken care of, I can grab the keycard and take the fanciest way to the bottom, but not by elevator.
See you later, partner!
For the basement of Ass Fission, I didn't feel like putting on the Amoongus costume, so I just absorb a lethal amount of radiation as I sprint to the agitative ball. Seems the defensive protocols is extra pissy today, as security comes back for round 2. I have a difficult time trying to take out the sentry bot, high DR, and I can't seem to hit a weak spot worth a damn, so I just take my time taking it out. The Assaultrons weren't as bad, lodge barbs in their chest until they keel over. Not satisfied with the carnage of the second to last mission, I help out with clearing out the lobby of the patrollers, and now Liberty Prime is ready for prime time. Like hell, I'm going to follow socialism to its destination, so I just warp on ahead and let life in the pursuit of happiness figure shit out by itself. It's not like I need a try for the final mission. Maxim is more than enough to solo the entire final dungeon. We plow our way through the Institute, making sure to go scorched earth. I might not have a flamer, but with all the Gatling lasers and miniguns, I don't think the robots were getting out of this unscathed. The central plaza, which I would argue is the hardest part of the final level, was but an afterthought. I know, it seems like we kind of blazed through the second half of the game, but I mean, when your weapon is one-shotting everything anyways, it kinda takes out a good chunk of the difficulty. I charged my way to the director's office, where Father was the last line of defense, not appreciating this representation of Jesus Christ, sacrificing himself for the sins of humanity. I chucked him in a corner and indulged in the lustful wrath of this slothful individual. Jealous of all the carnage Maxim gets to incur with his Gatling rifle, but at least I feel very prideful of my weapon, one-shotting the legendary synths, all while enjoying the delightful vanity of my sea captain's hat. I do wish the final mission was a little bit more difficult. I can be a glutton for punishment sometimes. Eventually the reactor is secured, I leave a care package to the world, let a child loose there and bring your child to work day, and press a big red button, and I have successfully beat Fallout 4 with the Harpoon Gun. This weapon was way better than I was anticipating. Before going into the run, I was thinking this weapon was mid, and it kinda is in its own way. Sure, it hits stupidly hard, but unlike other long reload weapons, it doesn't have any splash damage, so any missed shots really hurts. There are a couple other variants of the Harpoon Gun I could have used. One fires harpoons like a shotgun, and you can get infinite harpoons this way, and another adds bleed to the weapon, but I feel as a build, the vanilla harpoon with a scope works best. I really wanted to use a sniper build for once, and the Harpoon Gun works wonders for this. For the early game, I think the Harpoon Gun, especially the Admiral's Friend, is super busted if you want to go for a sniper stealth build, but at higher levels, you're better off with the traditional sniper builds or a Gauss rifle, better range, and much more importantly, way better reloads. To be honest, I really wanted to play Fallout 4 again. I haven't played much Fallout 4 in the last year, due to YouTube just being all over the place with the feed, and I am getting burned out of Skyrim, so a change of scenery wouldn't hurt. Not for sure what I'll do next for Fallout 4, probably another joke weapon, but I don't know what. Any ideas what I could do? Be sure to leave them down below. As for what is to come next, more than likely, I plan on continuing the Morrowind playthrough, so I expect more chaos to follow suit. Nothing else to say, except a massive thank you to all the YouTube members and patrons that always manage to land the mightiest of hauls while whaling. Links to them, along with my socials and Discord in the description. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more masochism, and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you all in the next one. Get it? See?